friend. Welcome to Purpose Unlocked, the space where dreamers, doers, and changemakers like you come to build legacies that truly matter. I'm Christy Smith, your anti-cookie cutter coach, sustainable legacy builder, and author of The Intuitive Entrepreneur, here to help you build a business that doesn't just look good on paper, but feels good in your bones. If you've ever felt that quiet pull for more purpose, more freedom, more impact, you're in the right place. Every week, we'll have real, unfiltered conversations about what it takes to build a purpose-driven business and a life that actually feels good. You'll hear stories, strategies, and mindset shifts from visionaries who are redefining success their own way, authentically, intentionally, and unapologetically. Because this isn't just about growing a business, it's about creating a legacy that lasts. So take a breath, grab your coffee, and let's unlock your purpose together. All right, we're going to start off real here. In a world that rewards hustle, remembering is an act of rebellion. And this can be remembering your why, remembering your roots, remembering the quiet, sacred truth that you don't need to keep sprinting to stay worthy. Gratitude, real, grounded, embodied gratitude, is how we remember. It's not a trend. It's not a checklist. Not something we post in November and forget by December. It's an anchor, one we return to when the noise gets too loud and the world starts tugging us in 100 different directions. When we practice gratitude, we're not pretending everything's okay. We're saying, even here, even in the hard, there's still something sacred. When we think about gratitude, sometimes it gets like flattened and you get those 3 things you're grateful for, go type situations. And while that's not wrong, it can become shallow if it stays in the head instead of dropping into the heart. Gratitude in action is not about collecting moments. It's about inhabiting them. It's that pause between back-to-back client calls when you realize this is my life. It's the small exhale after sending that email you've been putting off, recognizing the courage it took to just show up. It's looking at your calendar. Maybe it's packed, maybe it's imperfect, and remembering that every name, every project represents a story, a person, and a dream. When you start to see gratitude not as something to achieve, but as something to notice, everything softens. The edges of your day round out, the shoulds quiet down, and you start hearing the whisper again, the one that says, you're doing enough. You're becoming enough. Gratitude becomes less about listing and more about listening. Listening to your life as it unfolds and listening to the ordinary moments that are trying to love you back. Now, we know that entrepreneurs tend to be dreamers with rocket fuel in their veins. We thrive on momentum, we chase clarity, we crave creation. But sometimes that fire that we carry, the one that lights our vision, starts to burn too hot. We move from inspired to exhausted, from intentional to reactive. And in that rush, we stop pausing long enough to absorb what we've actually built. And think about it. When was the last time you looked at your inbox full of client wins and didn't just skim, but savored them? And when was the last time you celebrated a milestone before jumping straight into what's next? It's not that we're ungrateful. It's that we've been trained to equate motion with meaning. But the truth? Sustainable impact requires stillness, because gratitude isn't a productivity hack. It's a nervous system reset. And when you pause to acknowledge what's already good, your body softens, your breathing evens out, and your brain starts seeing possibility again. That's when creativity flows. That's when the innovation feels joyful again and not forced. And that's when you build from alignment and not anxiety. Gratitude is how you keep your business human. It's the pause that protects your purpose. Let's take a moment to honor someone who embodies this. Krista Tippett, the creator of On Being. Her work wasn't born from a 10-step content strategy or a viral trend. It was born from curiosity, from listening, from a deep reverence for what it means to be human. She talks about loving the pauses, the breath between a guest answers, the breath before a guest answers, the silence that allows truth to form. That's gratitude in its purest form, not for the performance, but for the presence. Over time, that posture of gratitude created something extraordinary, a global movement around leadership and sacred conversation. People didn't just consume her work, they felt it, they became part of it. That's what gratitude does. It builds ecosystems, not empires. It creates communities that root in trust, empathy, and shared becoming. And so, a lesson that we can take away from this is when you lead with gratitude, you're not just expressing appreciation, you're creating belonging. Okay, now let's blend the soulful with the scientific for just a minute, because this practice has roots both in spirit and in the body. Neuroscience tells us that gratitude rewires the brain. When you consciously focus on appreciation, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, those feel-good neurotransmitters that make us more resilient and open. Over time, gratitude literally trains your brain to notice possibility instead of threat. Spiritually speaking, gratitude is an act of alignment. It reconnects you with the natural rhythm of enoughness. It reminds you that abundance isn't something you chase, it's something you attune to. And here's where the magic happens for entrepreneurs. When you operate from gratitude, you stop making decisions from fear. You stop building from scarcity, and you start choosing strategies, collaborations, and opportunities that feel rooted, not reactive. You start building a legacy that's sustainable because it's honest. All right, so let's take a breath together. In through the nose, out through the mouth, and let's do some reflection prompts. Now, I'll go through them slowly here. You can always pause and journal about them. You can listen to all of them, come back to them later. Whatever, works best for you. You can even just, as I go through them, first thing that comes to mind, right? So take this process of reflection prompts and do what's best for you. So number one is, what parts of your workday have become invisible to you? The ones that are quietly keeping your business alive. And I think about this, and it might help you some. If you were to be timekeeping, some people do that. Sometimes it's a suggestion, and you were keeping track of everything that you did for the day, the things that you wouldn't write down, right? Because you're like, oh, that's something that I always do. That's something that just has to be done. And you don't account for it like all the way on your time. Maybe you lump it in with something else on your time. Are those the things that are quietly keeping your business alive? Okay, so number two, who makes your life easier? And how often do you pause to see them? Like really see them. This could be partner, a friend, family member, could be staff, could be a coach, could be a therapist. Who makes your life easier? Number three, when was the last time you felt awe? Like that goosebumps on your arms, heart wide open kind of awe inside your work. What moment triggered it? And here's a really big one. This is the last one. What would it look like to practice gratitude, not just when things go right, but when things go real? Awe is your soul saying, I'm awake, and gratitude is how you keep it awake. I have some action steps for you around the practice of remembering. And this should help you sink into everything that we've spoken about today, right? So action step number one. Now you can do this over the course of a week. You can do this over the course of a day. You could do it over the course of a month, whatever your time frame is, right? I'm not telling you it has to be done like in the next hour. So number one is create a remembering ritual. A lot of times this is best at the end of the day. You can jot down like one overlooked moment of gratitude. Like it doesn't need to be a highlight reel, right? But something that's ordinary. Some things that I've written down in the past maybe help trigger for you is like the smell of my morning coffee, especially if I'm like doing one of those like bougie coffees. It's like cinnamon or vanilla something or whatever it happens to be because it's out of the ordinary for me, right? Now, I said it need not a highlight reel, something ordinary, but for me, it was a trigger because it wasn't my ordinary coffee that we normally drink, right? I've written down things about like when somebody sends me a kind email or a text, right? That the one that makes you feel really good. A slow afternoon that gave me time to think, right? Like I was in the middle of creating a project or creating a new offering, writing my book, like something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have a whole like afternoon to just like slow down and focus on it. Yesterday on my personal social media, I mean, obviously timing is going to come out really weird because I record these ahead of time, but like I just posted about my morning ritual. Like my dog lays on my lap in the mornings and that's just, we get up and we do our thing and I make the coffee and feed him and we lay down on the couch and he goes back to sleep on my lap while I talk to my husband. Like it can be something like that just happens every single day, right? So that is your remembering ritual. So number 2, action step wise, is send a thank you ripple, right? So I want you to choose one person in your ecosystem. So that could be a client, a contributor, a friend, family member, like whomever that is for you, and send them a short voice memo of thanks, right? I know we get used to doing the texting, but just record it and then send it to them, right? You don't have to call, just record it. And no script, like no fluff, just your voice, just your heart, just your presence. Like, hey, I want to thank you for blah, blah, blah. I appreciate you. I appreciate you did this, whatever it happens to be, right? Number 3, anchor gratitude in your systems, right? So add a gratitude moment into your team meeting. Start with like, what's one thing that brought you joy this week, right? And then watch how that simple ritual transforms your culture over time, right? Say you don't have team meetings, say you have a community, right? And you have a meeting once a month, once a week, whatever it happens to be. You can bring it into that, right? Because your culture and your community can be impacted by that. So maybe it's a friend, you guys get together once a month, once a week for whatever happens to be, once a quarter. It doesn't really matter, but you all get together, have a potluck, be at somebody's house, go to a restaurant, hang out, and bring it into there. Just ask, like, what are other people grateful for right now in their life? Number 4, so this is the last action step. Share one reflection publicly. And this is for you entrepreneurs, you change makers, you rebels. Write a short post or do a story about something you're grateful for. Again, this is not to perform, but to normalize presence, right? So Brené Brown talks about vulnerability all the time. That's what she's been studying if you've read any of her books. And you being vulnerable and your entrepreneurship project, passion project, whatever it is that you want to change the world, impact the world in, you being vulnerable gives others permission to be vulnerable and remember gratitude as well. So this is leading by example, right? All right, those are your 4 action items. Gratitude roots us in the present so our legacy can grow deeper. It teaches us that success without presence is just noise, but success with remembrance, that's harmony. Thank you for tuning in to Purpose Unlocked. I'm so glad you're here. Every time you press play, you're choosing to invest in your growth, your purpose, and the legacy you're meant to create. And that matters. If something in today's episode resonated, take a moment to share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because when one of us rises, we all rise. And if you haven't already, hit follow, leave a review, or share your biggest takeaway on social. I love hearing what's landing for you. Remember, you weren't made to blend in. You were made to lead, to create, and to build something that lasts. So take what you've learned today, trust your intuition, and go make bold moves towards your purpose. I'm Christy Smith, your anti-cookie cutter coach and sustainable legacy builder, reminding you that your dream isn't just possible, it's waiting for you to claim it. Let's keep unlocking purpose together.